Hail Pandawans and journeymen walking that illustrated Orktober path. As you know, we are entering the last days of October, and it's time to finish off the greatest month of the year with a few more gruesome, toothsome, brutal doodles. As you can see, I'm working on some paper here that I scanned in. Now I'm going over in Photoshop, adding a little cheatery to it. Well, yesterday I had to take my car in. Routine maintenance. The little light was on, which basically means I got to, rotate the tires and I got to get the oil changed and they got to add the washer fluid and all that. Now, I could do that. Someone would have to show me how to do it first, but I could do that. But instead, I took in my trusty carriage, took it to those technicians who were more versed in the vehicular maintenance than I am, fixed up the old girl, and while I was waiting, I took my ever-present sketchbook and went to work pushing some pencils. And now in this video, look, I'm pushing some pixels. So it's traditional and future combining together. This was actually very fun to do. I had probably about an hour, so I did about an hour's worth of sketching. It takes a while to do the shading and stuff like that. Now, a lot of people, I've seen in previous posts, how come I just don't finish this, up in pencil, right? Instead of taking a photo and putting it in Photoshop, adding the cheatery to it. Well, I could spend another, dozen hours if I really wanted to, really getting this thing detailed up. Or I could take a picture of it, plop it in Photoshop and finish it up. And that's what I chose to do. It's like some pictures you want to labor on, some... Well, look at it this way. It's kind of like the equivalent of like nuking something in the microwave, to silence that grumbling, rumbly, tumbly you got. Or, putting some roadkill on the smoker out back and, 12 hours later you can eat. I don't know if you want to eat the roadkill, but it was damn tender. The car tires really, really softened that up. Both of those items, I guess, could fill you up, but... I tend to save that smoke roadkill for, beautiful dinners for family gatherings and close friends. I don't have a lot of family and close friends anymore after those dinners. Yeah, for something like this, boom, nuke it, lump of flesh in the microwave and feast and move on. It really, in all honesty, it really just depends on what you're working on. This is just, as I call it, a brutal doodle. It's not something that needs to be labored over too much, nothing that's going to stand the test of time. I'll take the hours that I didn't spend on this and put it on something that's like more important or bigger, like designing, for the beloved day job characters, environments and things like that, or, book covers or album covers. More on that later. Stuff like that, something that's going to be bigger and grander in scale. Now, this took me years to figure out. When I first started, I would be that guy that whenever I got a task, it could be the most mundane task, like, make a rock. And I'll be like, I'll make the best damn rock you've ever seen. And I would make the best damn rock you've ever seen. And then, in game, my character would run by it in like 0.2 seconds, never looking back. And I'm like, wait, no one's marveling at this majesty of rock. That's a good name for a band. Well, after all, it was just a rock, right? The task was make a rock. Sometimes the rock just needs to be a rock. Now, sometimes, this rock needs to be some kind of glowing shard that fell from the heavens, and its very presence on the world means the survival or demise of the race. And sometimes... just needs to be a rock or a mushroom or a crate, something, like that. But that actually took me years to learn that. So contemplate this well, Pandawans. That's what Musashi always used to say in his writings. He'd have something about how to defeat 10,000 swordsmen. And he would say this, very loose general sort of thing and then say, you must contemplate this deeply. It's like, okay. Yeah, so basically, I guess what I'm getting at is, as an artist, game artist, developer, know when it's just a rock, Make a good rock, like this guy here. He's a good orc, good family orc. He's out there earning his living, bringing home roadkill and beer-basted boar ribs for, for his family. And spend time, working on the big picture. And I don't mean like working on the whole world. That's good too. But spend the hours where it's needed. One of my favorite quotes was from the great philosophical movie with Patrick Swayze called Roadhouse. And he's talking with the guy he's going to rent this room from. And I forget the actual contents. I'm just not going to repeat the whole thing, even though I could. But he basically says, son, calling me sir is like putting an elevator in an outhouse. You just don't need it. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here with, put the time into the things that demand it, and the things that don't, get them finished to a good quality, and then you're finished and move on. Now, I don't necessarily like it's good enough. I don't really like that saying, because it has to be more than good enough. If it's going to be in a game or a picture that's, something of note. But know when it's perfect for what it needs to be. You could sit there and labor over every hair follicle and this and that on the underside of his pectoral, but no one's really going to see it unless you're that foe who he just smashed down, and you're looking up and you see the glistening pectorals, and that's very nicely rendered. But, I'll also say that sometimes taking time in the mundane things and making them, making mountains out of molehills, right? Now I'm contradicting myself again, but, listeners of this channel, you've come to understand that and contemplate that deeply. But example, some of the buttons that I would do for going all the way back to Lost Vikings, all the way up to StarCraft 2 and Heroes, World of Warcraft, all that. We had this little tiny space, but you had to convey exactly what it was. So in a sense, it's actually hearkening back to what I was saying earlier. So I'm not being a hypocrite, totally. It's like, take the essence of what something needs to be and put it in there, so anyone looking at it will immediately grasp what you're doing. Here, it's like, oh, it's an orc, he's snarling. Oh, and there's a little bit more emphasis on the teeth and the eyeballs. And it's like, oh, that's all it really needs to be. You don't need a background. You don't need, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Don't tell anyone, please. You don't need elaborate shoulder pads. You don't need all kinds of fancy stuff. Sometimes you just need a good old gruesome, toothsome grimace or a smile in this guy. Really looking at this now, like, I don't know how his jaw would really close. Like, he'd end up stabbing his eyeballs. That's why a lot of times on the orcs, I make the tusk going out to the side. We used to call those safety tusks. So the orcs wouldn't put out an eye, or every time there's an eyeball that, he lost an eye or something, it's always like, need to file down your tusk there, old Grumach the Wanderer. But anyways, I had a blast working on this. It was great to get back and to do something in the sketchbook again. I think I've done a few of those now for old October here. But alas, October is coming to an end. We'll celebrate it where all the kids and adults who still pretend to be kids dress up and all that and get candy and all that sort of stuff. So that will be it for this video, my friends, my Pandawans, my fellow journeymen walking that illustrated October path. Listen how mellifluous I am today. All right, Pandawans, that will be it. Oh, and here's a nice little, side to side. Just you can see where it started and where it finished. Remember your ABCs, Pandawans. Always be creating. Cheers and beers, and hail to you. Ha ha!